First, this is February. Welcome to a new episode of Monkeys with Mouths. Um, this one's going to be an interesting episode. I'm going to talk about Afghanistan and the United States. So, remember back 2020, one of Trump's decisions or one of his plans or his agenda was to withdraw people from Afghanistan, from Iran, from the Middle East, basically. And so he started it. And yeah, he started withdrawing troops. But now, so there's this article in Axios that says U.S. military says Afghanistan withdrawal is 90% complete. So today's episode, I'm going to talk about, how important and how just difficult this topic is. And before I get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, follow my Instagram at monkeyswithmouths.podcast. It should be streaming everywhere. I should be uploading content on there, just clips, videos of when I post. So yeah, keep that in mind. But yeah, let's get started. So this article on Axios says U.S. military says Afghanistan withdrawal is 90% complete. So more than 90% of the U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan has been completed. U.S. Central Command estimated in an update published on Tuesday. Why does this matter? The milestone, a 2 full months before President Biden's goal of withdrawing all U.S. forces by September 11th, comes amid concerns about deteriorating security situation in Afghanistan as the Taliban seizes vast swaths of territory in the battlefield. So the Taliban is... The Afghan Taliban, who refers to themselves as the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, the IEA, is an Islamist movement and a military organization in Afghanistan currently waging war, an insurgency, or jihad within the country. Since 2016, the Taliban's leader, Maulawi Hibatullah Akhundzada, I'm butchering the names, of course, but you're getting the idea. So he's been the Taliban's leader. So the Taliban has been condemned internationally for harsh enforcement of their interpretation of Islamic Sharia law, which resulted in the brutal treatment of many Afghans. So they're basically just a brutal military force, right? They're a brutal military terrorist force, which try to enforce their views of the world on people, and if the people don't accept it, then they either murder them, or they keep them as slaves, or they imprison them, or they torture them, or as they would do to many reporters, they would behead them. Just these terrorist groups aren't very pleasant, right? They're terrorist groups for a reason. The state at play. The last remaining U.S. forces are expected to exit the country by the end of August, AP reports. And so they link to a article by the AP, which is by Kathy Gannon. The U.S. left Afghan airfield that night, didn't tell new commander. So basically, the people left. The U.S. military left without letting the Afghan commander know. So here it says, we heard some rumors that this is from an Afghan general, the new Bagram, new commander. We heard some rumors of Americans left Bagram. And finally, by 7 o'clock in the morning, we understood it was confirmed and they had already left Bagram. So they left a new base. I think it's a new base because it says that the U.S. announced that its biggest airfield in the country in advance of final withdrawal. So it's the biggest airfield. They dipped. The U.S. military left, which is great. Like, we need to end the wars in the Middle East because they're pointless, and the U.S. cannot be the world police because that's what the U.S. has become. The U.S. has become the world police. So it's just after here it says, after first we thought maybe they were Taliban, or they're talking about, they're talking about the battle in the airfield. So the Taliban's latest surge comes at the last U.S. and NATO forces pull out of the country. As last week, most NATO soldiers had already quietly left. The last U.S. soldiers were likely to remain until agreement to protect Kabul Hamid Karzai International Airport, which is expected to be done by Turkey. So basically, the U.S. is staying to protect the building of an international airport, I guess. Meanwhile, in northern Afghanistan, district after district has fallen to the Taliban. So just as the U.S. military is pulling out, these Taliban are flooding, and they're taking over places. They're taking over territories. In just the last 2 days, hundreds of Afghan soldiers fled across the border into Tajikistan rather than to fight the insurgents. So this is just a very complicated situation, because it's good that the U.S. is retreating, but it's not good because the Taliban is taking over. So it's just a very complicated issue. I'm back at the Axios report. The U.S. has officially handed over 7 facilities to the Afghan Military of Defense, according to an update. Last week, U.S. forces left Bargham airfield without notifying the base's new Afghan commander. The departure came after nearly 20 years of using the facility as a center of its wars to oust the Taliban in search of al-Qaeda perpetrators of the 9/11 terrorist attack. CENTCOM said it would no longer be updating specific percentage updates of the withdrawal, citing security concerns. So, yeah. So here, there's another article by Axios which says, Biden cuts off questions about Afghan amid growing Taliban concerns. And it links to a video of Joe Biden talking. He said, Biden last month vote a sustained partnership with Afghanistan, but he has shown no public reservation about continuing the troop withdrawal. Look, we were in the war for 20 years, and I think I met with the Afghan government here in the White House, in the Oval, and I think they have the capacity to be able to sustain the government, he told reporters. So apparently Joe Biden has trust in the Afghan government, but clearly they're not doing a good enough job because they're losing. So I had a question, right? How much is the U.S. spending on these people, on the Afghan military? Because if we're going to leave, we can't just leave and just let them. We need to enforce them so that they can defend themselves. And eventually, they need to learn to defend themselves on their own. So I looked up what the budget is for how much the U.S. spends on Afghanistan and how much it gives Afghanistan. So I'm on this article by Flashpoints. The U.S. military budget requests for Afghanistan lowest in decade. With a $14 billion budget request for the fiscal year of 2020, when the U.S. military has spent its lowest amount in the 18-year-long war in Afghanistan in nearly a decade. The Overseas Contingency Operations or OCO funding request in Operation Freedom Sentinel was detailed in the Defense Department fiscal year in 2021. So the U.S. and Taliban are amid peace talks to end the conflict, but negotiations have appeared to bog down over definitions of potential ceasefire and reduction in violence. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper has said that the Pentagon is considering reducing the American footprint in Afghanistan from 13,000 to 8,600 troops if they're without a deal. So this was made in February 10th, 2020. So yeah, we know that didn't happen. In 2011, the U.S. spent $114 billion on OCO funds for the Afghan conflict. That's wild. $114 billion in this war. It's a really complicated situation. And I hope that these reports are honest. Because there was this article in November by New York Post in November of 2020. It says retiring diplomat. This is from the New York Post, and the title is "Retiring Diplomat Says Defense Officials Misled Trump on Troop Count in Syria." If you know about this political realm and these topics, you know about Tim Pool. I've talked about him in the first few episodes. So he made an episode where he was just ranting on how the Pentagon basically lied to Trump about how many troops, because Trump had promised to withdraw soldiers. And basically, this article says that the U.S. defense officials routinely misled Trump into believing American troop count in Syria was a lot lower than it actually is. A retiring U.S. diplomat said in a bombshell interview this week, "We are always playing shell games to not make clear that our leadership how many troops were there." James Jeffrey, U.S. Special Representative for Syria Enlargement, said in an interview with the Defense One. In October of 2019, Trump ordered the withdrawal of U.S. troops from northern Syria, a decision controversial among lawmakers. Pentagon officials convinced the president to leave approximately 200 troops behind to protect oil fields in the country that were at risk of falling into ISIS control. However, the real number of troops in northeast Syria is a lot more than 200. Trump agreed to leave behind. Jeffrey said, with some officials putting a number as high as 900. What Syria withdrawal? There was never a Syria withdrawal, Jeffrey told the publication. That's just infuriating how they lied to Trump. It's just not. And so I hope that these reports from Axios are honest and true, because truth is what matters. Like, we need honesty, and we need to have a clear, the people need to know what's going on, because I think people are getting sick of this Middle Eastern war. My uncle served in Afghanistan for 4 years. Like, thankfully he's fine, but this war is needless. It started because they were looking for people that wanted to start 9/11. But it's pretty much all about oil now. It's all about oil and control of oil, and they need to, like, for example, in Syria, they're destabilizing Syria so that they can get an oil pipeline, because they can control the situation if it's destabilized. And it's just, people are sick of the Middle East, Eastern problems. But Trump bombed Syria, Trump bombed Syria in I think 2016 when Trump announces strike on Syria. This is written back in 2018. So I don't like that. But do you know what Biden did in like the first 30 days? He bombed Iraq. Was it Iraq or Iran? Let me look that up. 1 month in. And President Biden on Thursday ordered airstrikes on buildings in Syria. And I think he recently bombed Iraq. This was ordered Biden's bombing of Iraq and Syria, the normalization of war. This was the 28th of June of 2021. That was just 10 days ago. Or not 10 days ago. My bad. 9 days ago, 8 days ago. I don't remember how many days June has. 30 or 31. It depends. But sources on the ground report 5 people were killed on the Iraqi side of the border, and 1 child and several other people wounded in the Syrian side. Like, he's continuing the war. He's continuing this pointless war. And yeah. It's just infuriating, because this war is needless, and we need to spend the money on helping America and fixing the American infrastructure, and not printing more money, but using the money. The president, I was talking to my dad back when I was in Costa Rica, and we were talking about El Salvador. And the El Salvador president, he gave a statement saying, basically, there's plenty of money, or there's enough money if we spend it wisely. The budget the budget will be enough if you spend it wisely. But you have to spend it wisely. You can't spend $114 billion like they did in 2013 on the war. You can't. It's just, yeah. Or you can't spend $11 trillion on an infrastructure package to fix roads when, okay, yes, maybe roads here in the States are bad, but how about we focus on education and stopping critical race or critical theory, which is wild, or the 1619 project, which is also insane. Or, yeah, I don't know, help colleges be cheaper. Like, I don't think if you go to college and you get into debt, you have to pay off that debt. I don't think you took that responsibility, and if you chose to study gender studies, then it's your fault. You need to pay back. You need to pay your debt. That's your responsibility, and you chose to study a stupid degree with no point, so you have to pay for that. So I think there should be regulation, because, for example, A&M, Texas A&M, it's $40,000 if you're out of state. It's probably more now. It's probably $50,000 if you're out of state, just for the basic tuition for a year. But yeah, anyways, off rant. We need to fix the United States. We need to find different programs to solve. We need to lower government power, because the government has way too much power. We need to enforce and promote state governance, and the states being able to do what they want. We can't do what was it? Lori Lightfoot, she declared racism a public health concern. which is just giving the power to the government to do what they want, to arrest people who they think. Now Facebook has a new feature, which is basically how to snitch on your neighbors if you think they're patriots, if you think they're pro-American, if you think that they're bordering. It's let me look up the article. Facebook new alert. So, yeah, new extremist content alert. This is from the Washington Times. Orwellian Facebook backlash for harmful extremist content. Let's see. Facebook just warns me that I may have been subjected to extremist content and asked me to report anyone I may know that is becoming an extremist. I have more than 200 coworkers I need to report. This is from Lauren Boebert. So, we're getting this wild nonsense. And, yeah, I'm just sick of pointless wars, pointless policies, pointless money spending. It's clearly 22% of the whole US dollars have been printed in the last 2 years. So let's stop printing money. Let's start exporting stuff, start exporting products, goods. Let's start fabricating and promoting small businesses here in the States to increase. Instead of spending $14 billion on Afghanistan, let's spend $14 billion in small business or small business programs to help incentivize small business loans, easier access to loans, stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just going off the top of my head right now, but the Afghan conflict is a tough, because we don't want the Taliban in control, but we can't put other countries before the U.S. and still expect the U.S. to be able to support these other countries. If you're putting all the focus on somebody else, you're not going to have time to focus on yourself. You're not going to have the energy to focus on yourself. So if you focus on somebody else all the time, well, then you're going to degrade yourself. But if you focus on yourself, you're going to improve. And then once you're improved enough, you can help other countries and you can help development. That's why I appreciated the Make America Great Again. Or that's why I disagree with Build Back Better, because he's not doing anything to build back better. Biden is just spending money. And I'm not, I have Trump here, but I also have Joe Biden up there. So, let me show you. Never mind. I'll move the camera at the end. But this you support the policies, not the people. And the policies of Joe Biden aren't policies to better America. They're policies to keep the establishment in control, to lengthen the power grab, to make it easier for these corrupt policies. He wants a court pack. Biden wants a court pack. Well, why would he want the court pack, you say? To get more of his extremist policies and more of these extreme judicial cases that are clearly against the Constitution to be passed, because you can get more power out of it. You can even the Democratic Party back with FDR said, no, we're not going to, packing the courts is not a good idea. And so just passing these radical agendas, if you look at any states, any red states, they're overall doing better in crime and job and law and order. Most red states are doing better than blue states. The majority of blue states are 70% up in crime. In San Francisco, Target has decided to, hey, we're gonna stop opening businesses, or we're gonna close Target stores after 6 or at 6 p.m. in the afternoon, because there's blatant shoplifting. I think it's like a fine if you steal stuff under $900. So it's basically a slap on the wrist if you steal anything under $900. So these police officers are being like, hey, I don't want to get shot because somebody's stealing stuff that's $900 left. I don't want to have to deal with that, so I'm just going to let them go. And so crime is increasing, and these stores are shutting. And it's just wild. The situation in the country is wild. And if we fix this country, we can help fix the world. But if we don't fix this country, well, the world's going to go down the drain as well. So the U.S. is a bastion of freedom and hope and opportunity. But if we squander that and decide to screw the U.S. over, then, hey, I'm sorry, but there's not going to be a there's not going to be a bastion of hope and a country of promise. So this is my rant. I hope you enjoyed. Let me show you the painting of Joe Biden. Let me move the camera up and then focus it. So there he is. Let me zoom in. He's super attractive, I have to say. Can you see that? I think you can. There's him. There's Donald Trump. And then there's a poster for Monkeys with Mouths, the podcast. It's a model of Joe Rogan. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you in the next episode. So take care and don't screw this country up, please. Thank you.